Welcome to Tech Hub. We are recording in the Russian Tea Room, which is slightly to the left of Carnegie Hall, which reminds me of the old story when somebody walks up to me on the street and says, "Excuse me, how can I get to Carnegie Hall?" And I say, well, requires lots of practice. I was looking at an article today on the internet about Google Glass, and about 2 months ago, or January 21st to be precise, somebody was sitting on the subway, this had to be a real techno nerd, who noticed Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google, who's worth like $25 billion, riding on the subway on the number 3 train, just a few blocks from here, wearing Google Glass. Now, I have as my guest Jim Ward, who is the expert and maven on everything tech. So why is it called Google Glass, not Google Glasses?
I assume that Google Glass is already so awkward to say, pronounce, that Google Glasses would be a little bit more awkward.
You're right. Glasses, asses, passes. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Men don't make passes at girls who wear glasses. I think Thornton Wilder, somebody said that. Jim, give us a little bit of your background so that I don't flub it.
Well, I'm a tech nerd. I work on Macintosh and Android and all sorts of stuff. I do tech support, and I'm into pro audio, and I keep up on these new developments like Google Glass.
Okay, our producer was showing me some videos, or do we call them videos anymore? I was on looking at this on the web. It was a promotional piece for Google Glass by Google, and if I'm going to play devil's advocate, it looked like you could you're going to walk around, and it would be a very self-indulgent thing, like, this is me walking down the stairs. That's a shot of my feet. This is the sidewalk. This is me walking another step on the sidewalk. Mike Falb, our producer, mentioned that we could have had a doctor saying, this is me taking out an appendix, which would be fascinating, but probably too frightening to watch. But tell me about Google Glass. Where is it going to go? Is this going to be the next new techno thing that's going to just overtake the entire world?
I think it'll either be a resounding success, or it'll be relegated to just a few niche markets. Like Mike said, it could definitely be useful for things like a doctor being able to document his surgery, or soldiers in battle, stuff like that. There's definitely a lot of utility for it. But like you said, there's a natural outgrowth of the current internet culture that would lead to people just using it to document everything they do.
I just had a really amusing thought of it will document all the car accidents that the Google Glass wearers get into as they're not paying attention to the road.
It'll be a brave new world. And it's funny you mention that, because we're in the Russian tea room here, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Russia they have these dash cams. They have dashboard cameras in all the cars. I did not know that. Because there are a lot of insurance scams and corrupt cops, so people have these dash cams. Go to YouTube sometime and just look up Russian dash cam. You'll find some interesting stuff. But it'll probably be more like that when we have Google Glass. Everything will be documented all the time.
So is every car in Russia supplied and built with a dash cam?
I don't think so. I think it's just something that a lot of people do.
By the way, I was going to digress for a moment here. This is my first official podcast. This show had normally been produced, or in the past, on WOR Radio 710 on your dial, and it was a very enjoyable experience. But we're sitting here a couple of feet away from each other rather than me alone in the booth, and the ambiance at the Russian Tea Room is lovely. I would heartily suggest our many listeners enjoy a dining experience here.
Here.
Blini is wonderful, and the caviar is great. And we're going to have Ken Bieberai on, who's running for city council shortly, and he's also the general manager of the RTR. So now back after I've digressed. So, Jim, you're taking the easy way out on me, because I had predicted earlier that Google Glass was either going to be a huge hit or a resounding failure, or somewhere in between. But I mean, we were also discussing the Apple has got a watch in the works.
Some analyst came out and said that Apple is coming out with a watch. There's some buzz. It could happen. We've also heard for years now about the Apple TV, not the Apple TV that currently exists. That's a box that goes on top of the television, but an actual Apple television. We've been hearing this from analysts for years, that Apple's about to revolutionize television. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe the watch will happen, maybe it won't. But I think at a certain point it becomes diminishing returns when you're trying to create a new niche. So as you mentioned before with Google Glass, it is a bit, dorky to have this thing, to be wearing these glasses. The user interface is interesting actually on Google Glass, because you have a heads-up display in front of you with relevant info, and the way you control it is through voice. If you tilt your head up, or if you say "OK Glass," that'll prompt it you to give it a command. You also can touch the side of the glass by your temple, and there's a little touchpad there. So I think something like Google Glass is going to succeed or fail based on whether it looks decent enough that it doesn't make people into pariahs when they wear it. Which I think you've seen the current model, right?
Yeah, I don't think it looks as bad as a lot of people are complaining. As a wearer of glasses,
Right.
I've got to wear them anyway. So
I think Eve.
I wouldn't mind.
What's
Eva Longoria?
No, close. Eve Behar. Well, who's the designer? Eve.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about like a hot babe who was wearing them or something.
No.
Eva Longoria and I have been dating ever since she split from Tony Parker. I just wanted to announce that here on the Tech Hub.
It's the source for all your Eva
all your
Longoria,
gossip
Rob
and
Taub gossip.
information. There was another thing. Okay, I have a question for you, Jim, as you are the knowledgeable person about everything tech. I had a lunch a few months ago with somebody from CBS who said that their market research is showing them in 5 years the only thing watched on a big screen are going to be sporting events. But many years ago, Bill Gates' famous New Yorker article, he said that the TV is still going to be the center of our household because everything's going to be voice activated. So we're going to have screens everywhere. Then we're just going to say whatever it's going to be called, if it's a Siri or whomever or some derivation of that, email or this or that, and you name what it is, put this show on. I'd like to watch the Golden Girls, whatever it's going to be, NFL football, New York Giants. So who's right about this? Which direction are we heading there? I'm a neophyte with all of this.
I think CBS is right to be scared because the broadcast networks are going to be in a worse situation than they are now in 10 years. But I don't think it's true that you're only going to have sports on TV. The funny thing is now, with all these devices, like with what Bill Gates said in the New Yorker article, that was years ago, right?
Yes, many years ago.
But that
like 20.
Right. That and in his book in the 90s, he also had some kind of wacky predictions, and he had to go back and revise it because he said that the internet was just a fad, stuff like that.
He said that?
Yeah, in the first edition of his book, 95 or 96. He said it was going to develop into something more. But the thing is now, the funny thing is now, what is a TV? 20 years ago, you knew what a TV was. Nowadays, a TV is basically a computer monitor with an over-the-air tuner built in. So computer monitors are going to get bigger. TV is now on our phones and on our tablets and on our computers and everywhere. I think Bill Gates had it right. I think there's going to be a million screens all over the place. People will watch content anywhere they can find it, anywhere they can easily get it. And right now, the cable companies and the content providers aren't really doing. A lot of the content providers and a lot of the cable companies aren't really doing themselves any favors in terms of making things accessible to the consumer. They've gotten better. There's services like HBO Go, Netflix that are great, but a lot of the content providers are still stuck in the Stone Age, and they're going to be dragged kicking and screaming into the new era sooner or later.
Because the content providers, a lot of them are still people who grew up in my generation. So we're mired in this way of thinking that this show is on at this time.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you have HBO to go, you can be on the beach with your iPad.
Yep.
And you want to watch a movie or a show or something like that, and you hit it there. So that seems to far outweigh that convenience far outweighs this looking at something on a big screen.
Unquestionably, you can never compete with instant gratification. That's what the internet and technology has taught us time and time again. And if you look at, if you see a little kid, for instance, we babysat my niece last weekend, and we have cable, we have all the extras, Showtime, HBO, DVR, but she still wanted the iPad, and she took the iPad and then she was watching Netflix on the iPad. So that's how, a generation consumes media now. So
okay,
companies
throw
like
something
CBS,
else at you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
okay.
you, but I was talking to another writer friend of mine, and if you go to robtaub.com, robtaub.com, you can see my various websites that I interact with. One of them is Huffington Post. I forgot what the percentage is, but one of the editors at Huffington told me most of their readership is on Blackberries or iPhones. So
Interesting.
Graphically, their articles will look much better on an iPhone. They will source and supply pictures on the iPhone that if you're at a desktop or a laptop and you call up that same article, it won't be there.
Oh yeah, that's very common now. Yeah, the adaptive designs for websites, between tablet, phone, computer.
So they just don't care about who's going to watch it read it on the desktop because they think it's an insignificant enough audience that they're just going to make the mobile article look better.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that over at my website, mountvalley.net.
Plug yourself away here.
Yeah, we produce content. We produce lots of great music that nowadays our website and our music and the content we release for consumption, for download, we have to always take into account people using phones and tablets above anything else. So it's a little bit sad in a way because when you have film producers who are shoehorning this great production into, a phone, even a phone with a retina display, still it's not, people are going to take media wherever they can get it, and the genie's out of the bottle. There's no way it's going to go back to the way it was. But Huffington Post, it's funny you say that because there's a lot of white space in the design. I always notice that.
Well, if you're looking at it, on a desktop or a laptop.
On a desktop, yeah, or a laptop.
It's remarkable to me because it just looks really slick on the iPhone. And the latest article I wrote, they will come up with a really wonderful photo that for the iPhone that just won't be on a desktop or a laptop, and it's remarkable to me. And so I urge people, hopefully, I'd rather it be read on the iPhone because it makes me look better, and it's just a slicker, more professional looking article.
And it's conducive to a morning commute as well. It's easy. You have the iPhone on you at all times.
There's another thing is I was on the C train the other night on Sunday night, 72nd Street in Central Park West, and they have paper signs up that say Wi-Fi. So I hit it, and sure enough, big signal. While I waited 10 minutes for the train, had Wi-Fi on the subway.
Who was that? Was that provided by MTA?
That's provided by the MTA.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, it's a mixed blessing, right? Because as we discussed in the past, that's going to be more people. I live in Brooklyn, so my subway ride from here to my house is going to be blissfully silent until I hit the bridge, and then everyone's going to be talking on their phones. So I guess it's with Wi-Fi.
But Wi-Fi, you can only get the email and send text.
No, you still do voice over IP. People will find a way to, you can FaceTime.
That's tragic.
It's all over.
As I tried to get onto the subway, because I guess this woman knew that she was going to lose the signal as the subway moved, she actually stood in the entryway to the subway and was texting away. And after I knocked her over, she wasn't able to continue texting. She was only like 79 or 80, so it wasn't that bad.
Handle it.
All right, Jimmy, well, this was great to have you on the show. We want to make this a weekly thing. Do you have any apps you want to tell us about? I want to do a segment called App of the Week. Do you have a favorite app that you use?
Yeah, I have a lot of favorite apps that are more niche, though. They're more like pro audio stuff. One of my favorite apps that I actually am a beta tester for is Animoog. It's like a Moog synthesizer, like the old analog synthesizers. It's an application that they released for the iPad and the iPhone, and it's just it's a lot of fun. You could hand it to a 4-year-old, and they can have fun with it. It's visual, and it's a synthesizer. You can create sounds with it, but the keyboard actually can be restricted to a scale. So even if you're not a musician, you can choose a scale and just go up and down the keyboard and have fun with it. I love that app. I'll give you a better app for the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go for a generic,
little too esoteric.
Every person of the world rap.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a required... This is a little obvious, I guess, but this is a required app if you've updated to iOS 6. Have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I have.
So you use Google Maps on...
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, I have upgraded.
Oh,
so...
I was going to say Waze.
Waze, oh yeah. You know what? Yeah.
We were planning on doing a segment on Waze today, but we didn't have time to prep Rob.
Well, do you want to do Waze another time then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do Waze another time.
So Google Maps then is an obvious one and also is redundant with Waze. So let me grab my iPad real quick and just see what I have.
Are we rolling here? Jim?
We're not
That's
live,
a-
are we?
No, we're not live. So it can be fixed in post.
I've got a good one. I've got a
Yes.
good one. We're going to be fixing a lot of stuff in post today, or during post, which might not be today. Yeah, there's a great video player called Azul, Azul, for the iPad.
I have heard of it.
It's awesome. It's free, and it supports lots of different codecs and formats. It doesn't have all the limitations that the built-in video player has. It's just excellent, and it can support a lot of audio formats. So check out Azul, A-Z-U-L.
AZUL. Will do. Thank you very much, Jim Ward, for making an appearance on Tech Hub. We will see you next show.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Okay.